The city of Azure was like a jewel that sparkled both day and night. Tall, silver buildings stood proudly against the bright blue sky, their glass windows shining like diamonds. Cars hummed quietly on smooth roads, their lights twinkling like stars as they weaved through the city. The air always smelled fresh, with a hint of flowers from the many gardens scattered across the city. Azure was a place full of life and wonder, where people worked hard during the day and celebrated joyfully at night. At the heart of this city was Prince Henry. He was the only son of King Edward, a kind but strict ruler who believed in keeping Azure peaceful and prosperous. Unlike his father, Henry loved adventure and fun. He wasn't very interested in sitting through meetings or learning about the kingdom's laws. Instead, he spent his time at grand parties, eating delicious food and meeting new people. Henry was known for his charm. Wherever he went, people couldn't help but smile. He had a loud, warm laugh and a friendly face that made everyone feel at ease. But deep inside, Henry sometimes felt lonely. He had everything he could wish for: gold, jewels, and a palace so big it had rooms he'd never even visited. Yet something was missing, though he didn't know what it was. One cool evening, as the sun set and painted the sky in shades of pink and orange, Henry decided to visit his favorite place, the waterfront bar called the Siren's Song. It was a cozy spot with lanterns glowing softly and music that made people sway to its rhythm. The bar sat right next to the ocean, and you could hear the waves crashing gently against the shore. Henry walked in, greeted warmly by the bartender, who handed him his usual drink. The place was lively, filled with laughter and chatter, but something, or someone, caught his attention. Sitting near the edge of the bar was a white woman he had never seen before. She had long, shimmering black hair that seemed to reflect the moonlight and eyes so blue they reminded him of the ocean. Henry couldn't take his eyes off her. It wasn't just her beauty. It was the way she sat so calmly, as if she belonged to a different world. Her dress, light and flowing, looked as if it was made from the sea itself. When their eyes met, she gave him a small smile that made his heart race. He walked over, his usual confidence mixed with curiosity. "Hi, I'm Henry," he said with a grin. The woman tilted her head, her smile growing wider. "I know who you are, Prince Henry," she replied, her voice soft and musical. Henry chuckled. "I suppose everyone does. But I don't know your name. May I have it?" "Luna," she said simply. "Luna," he repeated as if tasting the name on his tongue. "It suits you. Are you new to Azure? I've never seen you before." Luna hesitated for a moment, her fingers tracing the edge of her glass. "You could say I'm just passing through. But this place is enchanting." They talked for hours. Luna told Henry stories about the ocean, its vastness, its secrets, and the beauty that most people never saw. Henry, in turn, shared tales of his adventures in Azure, making her laugh with his playful exaggerations. They danced under the lanterns, their laughter mixing with the sound of the waves. For the first time in a long time, Henry felt completely happy. What Henry didn't know was that Luna was no ordinary woman. She was a mermaid sent from the deep ocean by her people. Her mission was clear: learn about humans, discover their weaknesses, and ultimately bring them to ruin. The ocean had suffered for years because of human activity: pollution, overfishing, and carelessness. Luna's people were tired of being ignored, and they believed the only way to protect their home was to destroy the human world above. But as Luna looked into Henry's kind eyes and listened to his laughter, she felt something strange in her heart. It was warmth, soft and unexpected, and it scared her. She had never felt this way before, and it made her question everything. By the time the night ended, Henry was completely smitten. He held Luna's hand as they walked along the shore, the moonlight casting their shadows on the sand. "Will I see you again?" he asked, his voice hopeful. Luna hesitated. She was supposed to leave soon to report back to her people. But the thought of leaving Henry made her chest ache. "Maybe," she said softly, her heart torn. As the sun began to rise, painting the sky with gold, Luna and the prince parted ways, hoping to see each other soon. Prince Henry drove back home in his white Lamborghini, not knowing that he had just fallen in love with someone who belonged to the very ocean itself. Luna swam beneath the surface of the ocean, her shimmering tail catching the light that filtered down from above. The water was cool and soothing, but her mind was a storm of confusion. She had spent the entire night with Prince Henry, and now, as she returned to her home beneath the waves, she couldn't stop thinking about him. Her people, the merfolk, lived in a secret city called Abyssalora, hidden deep in the ocean's heart. It was a beautiful place, with coral towers that glowed softly and gardens filled with plants that swayed gently in the currents. But there was a sadness in Abyssalora. A sadness that had grown over the years as the ocean became more polluted and its creatures struggled to survive. The merfolk's leader, the stern and wise Queen Marina, had given Luna her mission. She was to go to the human world, learn their ways and weaken them from within. The humans, Marina believed, were the greatest threat to their survival. Luna had been chosen because of her beauty and her ability to blend in with humans. But now Luna felt torn. As she approached the throne room, Luna's heart sank. The queen sat on her coral throne, surrounded by advisors. Her presence was commanding, her gaze sharp as she looked down at Luna. "You've returned," Queen Marina said, her voice like the crash of waves. "What have you learned about the humans?" Luna hesitated. "They are more complicated than I expected," she admitted. "They have flaws, yes, but they also have kindness and love." The queen's expression hardened. "Kindness and love will not save the ocean, Luna. Did you forget why you were sent? Humans are destroying our home. They must pay for what they've done." Luna lowered her gaze. "I haven't forgotten, Your Majesty. But I need more time to complete my mission." The queen narrowed her eyes, her suspicion growing. "Time? Or are you hesitating because you've grown attached to one of them?" Luna didn't answer. The truth was too complicated to explain. She left the throne room, her heart heavy, and swam to a quiet corner of the reef where she could be alone. Meanwhile, back in Azure, Prince Henry couldn't stop thinking about Luna. Days passed and he could not set his eyes on Luna. He kept on going back to the same spot hoping to find her, but she never appeared. It frustrated him, this feeling of longing for someone he barely knew. He had met many women before, but none of them had made him feel the way Luna did. One evening, as he stood by the shore staring out at the horizon, he made a decision. "I'll find her," he whispered to himself. "No matter where she is." But his search didn't go as planned. He asked around the city, describing Luna to anyone who would listen, but no one knew her. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. His frustration turned into an aching sadness. Alas, on a Friday evening, which will be the 14th day of endless waiting and searching, the prince met Luna waiting patiently for him. He ran to meet her and their lips locked onto each other. For many weeks, which turned into months, they clung into each other and their love could not be stopped. Luna prevented Prince Henry from coming to her abode and also refused going to his own home. After much persuasion, Luna agreed to follow the prince home. Prince Henry was so happy, but on the contrary, Luna knew her presence in the palace will be a disaster. She lived with the prince for a month before returning back to her home. Those were the best days for Prince Henry because during those days they got intimate. The next day, Prince Henry dropped Luna off at Crescent Junction where she claimed her parents lived. Prince Henry wanted to drop her at her home, but she blatantly refused, claiming her parents must see her with a man. Prince Henry couldn't find those words appealing, but he had no choice. Ever since then, Prince Henry could not set his eyes on Luna. As the days turned into weeks, strange things began happening in Azure. Businesses that had thrived for years suddenly closed their doors. People grew ill without explanation. Crops withered in the fields, and the ocean, once calm and clear, grew restless and stormy. The people of Azure whispered about a curse. Some said the city had angered the gods, while others believed a powerful sorcerer was behind the troubles. The city's priests, wise and respected, were called to investigate. They prayed and performed rituals, seeking answers. Finally, one of the priests spoke up during a meeting at the palace. "The ocean is angry," he said. "A mermaid is among us, and her presence has brought this curse upon the city." The room fell silent. King Edward, sitting on his grand throne, furrowed his brow. "A mermaid? That's absurd. Those are just stories." But the priest shook his head. "They are real, Your Majesty. And they have reason to hate us. If we don't find her, the city will continue to suffer." Prince Henry, standing near his father, felt a chill run down his spine. A mermaid? Could they be talking about Luna? Oh, it couldn't be. She was kind and gentle, not some mythical creature causing destruction. Far beneath the waves, Luna was dealing with her own turmoil. Her hands trembled as she rested them on her stomach. A mix of fear and joy filled her. She had never expected this, but now the life growing inside her made everything more complicated. "I can't stay here," Luna whispered to herself. If the queen finds out, she'll never forgive me. And if I return to Henry, his people will never accept me. But Luna knew she had to make a choice soon. The strange events in Azure weren't entirely her doing, but her presence was undoubtedly part of the reason. The ocean was connected to her emotions, and her inner conflict was throwing everything out of balance. Late one night, Luna swam to the surface and sat on a rock, gazing at the lights of Azure in the distance. The city looked so peaceful from here, but she knew the truth. She had heard the whispers from the ocean's currents. The people were looking for her, blaming her for their troubles. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen," she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. As the waves lapped gently at her tail, Luna made a silent promise. She would protect her child and the man she loved no matter what. But deep down she knew the path ahead would not be easy. Azure was no longer the shining, lively city it had once been. Its streets were quieter now, its people worried. Shops closed early and laughter was rare. Storm clouds often hung low in the sky, casting shadows over the tall buildings. The ocean, once calm and blue, churned angrily, its waves crashing against the shore as if it were warning the city of something terrible. The whispers about a mermaid spread quickly. People spoke in hushed tones, sharing stories of how such creatures could charm humans, curse cities, and bring ruin wherever they went. Fear crept into every corner of Azure, and all eyes turned to King Edward for answers. "We must act," one of the priests urged during a palace meeting. "The mermaid is among us, and she is the cause of these troubles. If we do not find her, Azure will fall." The king, sitting tall on his golden throne, rubbed his temples in frustration. "How do you suggest we find this mermaid? If such a creature exists, she could be anyone." The priests exchanged uneasy glances. Finally, one of them spoke. "The ocean itself will reveal her. Bring the people to the shore, and we will perform a ceremony to summon her. She will have no choice but to appear." The king agreed, though reluctantly. He wasn't sure he believed in mermaids, but he couldn't ignore the growing fear among his people. The ceremony was scheduled for the following week, and the news spread quickly throughout Azure. Prince Henry listened to the priest's plan with a sinking heart. He had kept his thoughts to himself, but he couldn't shake the feeling that Luna might be the one they were searching for. He didn't want to believe it, yet everything pointed in her direction. The strange things happening in Azure, her sudden disappearance, and the mysterious air she carried. That night, Henry returned to the waterfront, hoping against hope that Luna would appear. He stood by the shore, the salty breeze ruffling his hair, and stared out at the restless waves. "Luna," he whispered, "if you're out there, I need to know the truth. Who are you really?" His voice carried over the water, but there was no response. Henry clenched his fists, torn between love and doubt. Luna, hidden beneath the waves, had heard everything. She had been watching Henry from afar, her heart aching with every passing moment. She wanted to tell him the truth, to explain everything, but she knew the risks. That night she swam to the shore, carefully disguising her tail so she could walk on land. She found Henry sitting by the water, his shoulders slumped in defeat. "Henry," she called softly. He turned sharply at the sound of her voice, his eyes widening with a mix of relief and surprise. "Luna, where have you been? I've been searching everywhere for you." Luna stepped closer, her expression heavy with sorrow. "I'm sorry, Henry. I wanted to come back, but I'm not who you think I am." "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice trembling. She took a deep breath, gathering her courage. "I'm a mermaid, Henry. I was sent here by my people to..." She hesitated, the words catching in her throat. "To study humans. Harm them." Henry stared at her, his mind racing. Part of him wanted to deny it, to tell her she was lying. But as he looked into her tear-filled eyes, he knew she was telling the truth. "And me?" he asked softly. "Was I just part of your plan?" Luna shook her head, her tears falling freely now. "No. You're different. I didn't expect to care for you, Henry. But I do. I love you." For a moment they stood in silence, the sound of the waves crashing around them. Henry reached out and took her hand. "Then come with me. We'll figure this out together." Luna pulled away, shaking her head. "I can't. The city is suffering because of me. They'll never accept me. And now I have something else to protect." Henry frowned. "What do you mean?" Luna placed a hand on her stomach, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm carrying your child." The weight of her words hit him like a storm. He stared at her, stunned. My child? Luna, this changes everything. We have to. Before he could finish, the sound of voices and footsteps interrupted them. Soldiers carrying torches were approaching the shore. Luna's eyes widened in fear. They found me, she whispered. Henry grabbed her hand. Run. I'll protect you. But it was too late. The soldiers surrounded them, their torches casting flickering light over the beach. One of them stepped forward, pointing at Luna. There she is, the mermaid. She's the one causing the city's troubles. Henry stepped in front of her, his arms spread wide. Leave her alone. She's done nothing wrong. The captain of the soldiers frowned. Step aside, Prince Henry. This is the king's order. No. Henry shouted. You don't understand. But the soldiers didn't listen. They grabbed Luna, their hands rough as they pulled her away. Henry, she cried, struggling against them. I'll save you, he shouted, his voice breaking. I promise. As the soldiers dragged Luna toward the palace, Henry stood frozen, his heart pounding. He had to act fast, but he didn't know how. The palace was a fortress of marble and gold, its towering columns gleaming under the dim light of a stormy evening. Luna's hands trembled as the guards dragged her through its grand halls. Her shimmering dress of sea blue clung to her like the ocean she longed to return to. The sounds of crashing waves seemed to echo in her ears, but there was no comfort here, only fear and the weight of what was to come. Let me go, she pleaded, struggling against their iron grips. The guards remained silent, their faces hard as stone. Her heart raced as she was pulled toward the throne room, where King Edward and his court awaited. She could hear faint murmurs and the occasional clash of ceremonial spears. It was a sound that made her stomach churn. The doors to the throne room swung open with a heavy groan. The room was packed with nobles and priests, their eyes narrowing in suspicion as Luna was forced to her knees on the cold marble floor. Torches lined the walls, their flames casting eerie shadows that seemed to dance with judgment. King Edward sat on his grand throne, the weight of his crown reflected in the deep furrow of his brow. His piercing eyes swept over Luna, trying to piece together what made her so dangerous. The priests, gathered to the side, exchanged satisfied glances, their faces alight with grim determination. She is the one, declared the lead priest, a tall man with a long silver beard and a voice as sharp as a blade. He stepped forward, holding up a glowing conch shell that pulsed with blue light. The ocean's curse flows through her. Her very presence brings ruin to Azure. The crowd murmured in agreement. Luna felt the weight of their stares, heavy and suffocating. King Edward leaned forward, his voice calm but edged with skepticism. You claim she is a mermaid, a creature of legend. Yet she looks human enough. What proof do you have? The priest held the glowing conch shell higher. This shell, blessed by the gods of the sea, reacts to her magic. It glows only in the presence of her kind. That is proof enough, your majesty. Luna shook her head, tears welling in her eyes. I never meant to harm anyone. I don't want this. The priest sneered, his voice rising. You speak of peace, but your very existence has brought chaos to our city. Businesses have failed, crops have withered, and sickness has spread. The ocean's rage is tied to you, and only your sacrifice will calm it. Before the king could respond, the doors burst open with a loud crash, and all heads turned as Prince Henry stormed into the room. His face was pale, his hair disheveled, and his eyes burned with desperation. Stop this madness, he shouted, his voice echoing through the chamber. Henry, King Edward said sternly, rising from his throne. This is not your place. You have no idea what's at stake. Henry ignored his father and strode to Luna's side, his heart breaking at the sight of her on her knees, bound and trembling. He knelt beside her, placing his hands gently on her shoulders. Luna, I'm here, he whispered. The priests exchanged uneasy glances. One of them stepped forward. Prince Henry, you are blinded by affection. This creature has bewitched you. Her sacrifice is necessary to save Azure. Henry stood, fury burning in his chest. You call her a creature, but she's more human than any of you. She didn't ask for this. And she's not the reason this city is falling apart. Our greed, our recklessness, that's what's destroying us, not her. The lead priest scowled. Your love clouds your judgment. She is not one of us, and she never will be. King Edward raised a hand, silencing the argument. Henry, step back. The priests have reason to believe she is responsible for Azure's suffering. If they're wrong, how do you explain what's happening to our city? Henry's voice softened, thick with emotion. I don't have all the answers, father. But I know this, killing her won't fix anything. You'll only break us further. The king hesitated, his stern expression faltering for the briefest moment. But the priests were relentless. Your Majesty, the lead priest said urgently, the city demands action. If we do not act now, Azure will be lost. Luna, silent until now, lifted her head. Her tear-streaked face glowed faintly in the torchlight. If my death will save Azure, then do it, she said, her voice steady despite the fear gripping her heart. Henry spun to face her, his eyes wide with disbelief. No. Don't say that. Luna's gaze softened as she looked at him. Henry, I can't let more people suffer because of me. This is bigger than us. She took a shaky breath and placed a hand on her stomach, then said to Prince Henry's ear. Our baby will be gone forever. Henry shouted and dropped to his knees again, gripping her hands tightly. Don't ask me to do this. Don't ask me to let you go. She's carrying my baby, she has my baby in her. Prince Henry was cut short by the priest. Tears streamed down her face as she leaned forward, her forehead resting against his. I love you, Henry. Never forget that. The priests began chanting, their voices low and ominous. The conch shell in the lead priest's hands glowed brighter, pulsing with energy. Luna's body shimmered, her magic reacting to the ritual. She winced in pain, but she didn't cry out. Henry's heart shattered. Stop, he screamed, leaping to his feet. He lunged toward the priests, but the guards grabbed him, holding him back. Let me go, he roared, struggling against their iron grips. The chanting grew louder, filling the room with a deafening hum. Luna's glow intensified, her body trembling as the magic consumed her. She turned her head toward Henry one last time. I forgive them, she whispered, her voice barely audible. With a final burst of light, Luna collapsed to the floor, her breath fading. The conch shell shattered in the priest's hands, its pieces scattering across the marble. A heavy silence fell over the room. Outside, the skies cleared and the ocean calmed. The people of Azure, unaware of what had transpired, celebrated as if a great burden had been lifted. But inside the throne room, Henry knelt beside Luna's lifeless body, his tears falling freely onto the cold marble. Hours later, King Edward sat alone in his chambers, his head in his hands. He had always believed his duty was to protect his people, but tonight his actions felt more like a betrayal. He had watched his son's heart break and done nothing to stop it. In the palace gardens, Henry stood beneath the stars, clutching the locket Luna had left behind. Inside was a strand of her silver hair and a pearl that glowed softly, a reminder of her love and sacrifice. He whispered, his voice shaking. I'll honor your memory. I swear it. The days following Luna's death were heavy with an unnatural stillness. The skies above Azure were clear, and the ocean had returned to its calm, sapphire beauty. Businesses reopened, the sick began to recover, and life in the city resumed. Yet for Prince Henry the world would never be the same. He avoided the bustling streets and lively celebrations. Instead, he spent his days walking along the quiet shores where he had first met Luna, the waves lapping softly at his boots. Every step reminded him of her, the way she danced beneath the moonlight, her laughter like a melody, and the warmth of her touch. He carried her locket with him everywhere, the soft glow of the pearl inside a constant reminder of her love and sacrifice. At the palace, King Edward sat on his throne, watching the court resume its usual routine. Decisions were being made, treaties signed, and feasts prepared. But the joy that had once filled these halls felt hollow. Your Majesty, one of his advisors said cautiously, the people are pleased. They believe the curse has been lifted. Azure prospers again. The king nodded absently, his gaze drifting to the empty chair beside him where Henry used to sit during council meetings. And yet, he murmured, at what cost? The advisor hesitated. Your Majesty, you did what was necessary. The priests assured us. Enough, the king interrupted sharply. His voice softened, filled with regret. I've lost more than I've gained. My son barely looks at me. I have broken something that cannot be repaired. The advisor bowed and left the room, leaving King Edward alone with his thoughts. Henry's isolation didn't go unnoticed. Late one evening, the king found his son in the palace gardens, sitting beneath a towering oak tree. The moonlight filtered through the leaves, casting soft patterns on Henry's face. "I thought I might find you here," King Edward said quietly, approaching with careful steps. Henry didn't look up. He ran his fingers over Luna's locket, the faint glow reflecting in his tear-filled eyes. "What do you want?" The king sighed, his shoulders heavy with guilt. "To apologize. I failed you, Henry. I thought I was protecting Azure, but in doing so, I hurt the one person who matters most to me." Henry's grip tightened on the locket. "Your apologies won't bring her back." "I know," Edward said, his voice breaking. "But I want to make things right. For you. For her memory." Henry's eyes softened, though the pain remained. "What do you care about her?" The king knelt beside his son, his tone earnest. "All that matters is you, Henry. Luna's sacrifice should not have been in vain." Henry looked at his father for the first time in weeks. He saw the lines of regret etched into the king's face, and while forgiveness didn't come easily, a small part of him wanted to believe his father's words. Back at the palace, King Edward worked to rebuild his relationship with Henry. Over time, the bond between father and son began to mend, though the weight of Luna's loss remained a shadow in their lives. The city of Azure had healed, its people stronger and wiser. But for Prince Henry and King Edward, the true legacy of Luna was not just her sacrifice. It was the love she had left behind, a love that would guide them through every storm.